Furiosa, a Mad Max saga, is the latest installment in the Mad Max series from George Miller. It's kind of crazy that he's directed every single Mad Max story that we've gotten so far, but it makes sense just because Mad Max is such a singular vision and a unique franchise that I feel like it needs that distinct voice from George Miller to really, you know, be as successful as it has been. So it's been around, what, almost 9 years since we got Fury Road, which blew everybody away. Nobody thought that this kind of rehash of the Mad Max franchise would work, but it did. It was a massive success. It was nominated for a bunch of Oscars. I think it's one of the best action movies ever made. That movie was phenomenal. And now 9 years later, we get a prequel following the character Furiosa. This movie has been rumored about. I think it got delayed a couple of times because of the strikes or whatever, the pandemic, something along those lines. This movie has been in development for what feels like the entire time I've been reviewing movies, dating back to like 2020, 2019. So there's been so much hype and so much speculation of what this movie was going to be, what it was going to look like, what it was going to follow, who was going to be in it, that it almost became daunting to come to release day and finally see this movie after so many years of hype. Thankfully, I can say with a very confident and firm tone that Furiosa, a Mad Max saga, is a phenomenal movie. This film absolutely floored me from start to finish. This movie is something special. This is something completely different from what we've seen from almost any Mad Max film up to this date, and really a lot of other big franchise movies as well. Like, this movie is truly something else. Furiosa moves at a pace that is so unlike any other action film really we get for a while. It spends so much time building the mythos and backstory and dedicates so much time to world building, but never feels stale. It never feels like it's trying to do too much, or it's packing in too much story-wise. There's no fat to be found within this story because it's balanced out with some of the best choreographed, paced, scored, directed, written, performed action sequences I have ever seen. Some of them reach heights that not even Fury Road was able to reach. There's a certain sequence when Anya Taylor-Joy's character first kind of comes into her own and gets onto a war rig. You'll know it if you've seen the movie. That entire sequence, I think, it blew me away with just how well crafted the entire thing is and how long they were able to hold my attention with that action sequences. This movie takes its time with its sequences, you know. If it's trying to build up emotion, it does that well. If it's trying to have this really long, drawn-out action sequence, it does that well. This movie is not afraid to make you be patient and wait for a payoff. And when it finally does pay off, oh, it is so, so satisfying. I want to talk about mainly Anya Taylor-Joy because, well, the other performances are great. Her performance is really the linchpin of this entire story. A lot of people were doubting if she could handle this massive of a role, you know, this stoic of a character, you know, because you need to have a certain kind of chops to play a character like Furiosa. You need to be able to draw a lot from silence, from looks, from action and instead of dialogue. But Anya was able to embody this character in a way that I didn't even think she could pull off. I've never doubted her. I thought she was a great choice for this movie, but she taps into something that I wasn't even expecting. The one element that I was genuinely very skeptical about was Chris Hemsworth as Dementis. I didn't know, because I haven't really seen, you know, we haven't really seen him outside of like the big schlocky, dumb action movies like Thor or the Extraction films. You know, we haven't seen him outside of that typecast, and I was worried that he was going to bring like a level of Marvel humor or some bullshit like that to this movie, but he honestly didn't. I thought he, one, was very funny. He had such charisma and kind of like maniacal energy to him. He felt unpredictable and believable, mainly. He felt like this weird, like, Australian guy that leads this gang of motorcyclists. Like he felt so believable in this role. It never was like, oh, that's just Chris Hemsworth. He felt like the character of Dementis. And I think, honestly, this is his best performance ever. He carries a lot of the weight of this movie being the central antagonist, and I think that, I don't know, I was really shocked with how great he was. I do want to preface, before going into this movie, guys, don't expect it to be Fury Road. This is not Fury Road. This movie is essentially a hero's journey epic, following the life story of Furiosa and where we find her up until Fury Road. It is not as action-packed. It is not, you know, this thrilling, heart-pounding, you know, never takes breaks kind of movie that Fury Road is. It has these wonderful moments of bombastic action all throughout it, but don't expect it to be the same movie. This movie, again, like I was saying earlier, is patient. It takes its time. It definitely tells more of a story. It gives you background. It takes its time within the wasteland and builds layers, and I think that is something that was a huge risk on George Miller's part, but something that paid off in spades. This movie, I don't know, it's more of like a traditional action film, like from the 60s or 70s, like even following, like, you know, it follows the trend of like Dune and even not borrows from Star Wars, but like follows that same kind of grandness and epicness, and reminds me of one of the first times I ever watched Star Wars because of just how engulfing this movie feels. So yeah, I absolutely loved Furiosa. This is easily one of my favorite movies of the year. This thing had everything. It told a wonderful story. It had great performances. I don't know how some of these action scenes were pulled off. And the risk that, really the risk that was Furiosa, paid off in ways that I was not even a little bit ready for. So this is easily one of my favorite movies of the year. I think it's one of the best movies of the decade. I think this is just maybe the best prequel of all time. I don't know. It could be. So Furiosa, a Mad Max saga, gets an A+ from me. This movie is phenomenal. Please, I urge all of you guys to go see it. And yeah, that is my review for Furiosa. I have a tripod now, so we get to have this cool little angle here. I'm checking it out in like the viewfinder, and it looks really nice, so that's a positive thing. If you guys like what you're watching, please click subscribe, hit like, and especially leave a comment. I really want to know what you guys think of this movie. Did it work as well as it did for me? Did it not? Are you interested in Mad Max as a franchise? Are you not? What movies do you want to see me review next? All that good stuff, please leave it in the comments. And other than that, I will see you guys with the next video.